You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Ian, look at this.
Well, it's a police box. What on earth's he doing here? I mean, these things are usually on the street. I feel it. Do you feel it?
Faint vibration.
It's alive.
Earth Station Who, a fun mashup celebrating nearly 50 years of the Doctor Who universe. Hold tight. You never know where the TARDIS is going next.
You're probably a bit confused right now. I broke the glass. It's all come back to me.
What is this?
That's my ship.
What?
Let me take it from the top. Hello, I'm the Doctor. I'm a traveller in space and time. And that thing buried down there is called a TARDIS. Time and relative dimension in space. You're gonna love this.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Earth Station Who podcast. That's right, folks. We are back once again, and we are going back to the 11th Doctor era, and we are looking at the Rebel Flesh and the Almost People. This is Matt Smith's second season, and this was actually in a series of some amazing stories of Doctor Who. We had, right before this, we had the Doctor's Wife, and then we also had, of course, we have this one in the Almost People, but then we also have the story after that one, which is just almost as good, and that's, of course, when you have A Good Man Goes to War, which, you know, introduces the Paternoster Gang. It introduces some other, you know, characters we've seen before, but also the Headless Monks and some really cool stuff. And you also find out finally who the mystery of River Song is solved, kind of, sort of. So this is just a great era of Doctor Who. And, you know, I forgot how good this was when I started watching it. And I am so looking forward to talking about this one with you guys. But we got a great crew to talk all about this. Of course, joining us for the first time, let's welcome Shannon Longmire. Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
And you've been a long-time listener of the podcast, and I met you years and years ago at Dragon Con through the Brit Tracks. Mm-hmm. And so it's pretty cool. So you're a huge Doctor Who fan, and so tell me your history with Doctor Who and such. And we also want to find out who's your doctor.
Well, I'd have to say that my doctor was David Tennant. I love him to death, though I first started watching with Christopher Eccleston and went back all the way to the first Doctor and started rewatching, trying to catch back up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome, because a lot of fans of the new series just stick with the new series. And so that's pretty cool that you went all the way back to William Hartnell and everything. Yeah. That's pretty admirable. That's awesome. That's very cool. So that's cool. And so are you still watching the show, or, you know, like some people haven't been, you know, as enthusiastic to watch Jodie as the Doctor and such stuff like that?
I genuinely love Jodie, but between going to school and working full time, it's difficult to be able to stop and take a break and indulge in my hobbies. But the episodes that I've seen with Jodie, I've really enjoyed.
Okay, that's very cool. Very cool. It's going to be a lot of fun talking about this one with you. And it was funny when I mentioned, hey, we have an 11th Doctor story coming up. Do you want to join us? I think within 30 seconds you were like, yes, 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 yes. So it was pretty awesome. So welcome aboard.
Thank you.
And, of course, we have our regulars with us. Let's, of course, say howdy to Mr. Mike Gordon.
Howdy.
And, of course, the lovely and talented Mary Ogle is here.
Hi, everybody. It is fantastic to be here.
So we have a fun one for us tonight. We definitely would love to hear from everybody at home. Feedback at EarthStationWho is the best way to get in touch with us. Of course, we have an amazing Facebook group, and, you know, it's awesome to talk about Doctor Who and to chat and put up memes and talk about fake news, what's going on with a new doctor, you know, and trying to predict who the new doctor's going to be. There's no way we're going to be able to predict it. It's just going to happen, and they're going to go, oh, him, her, it, you know, whoever. So it's going to be pretty awesome to see whoever they get for the new doctor. So should be a ton of fun. And we talk all about that in, you know, the Facebook group. But we also have our own webpage, which is earthstationwho.com, where we have all our older episodes, and we go back quite a few years. And we're working right now on an archive page where you're going to be able to go back all the way to episode 1 of Earth Station Who. And that's a lot of podcasting because, you know, we're coming up real soon on episode 300. So that's a lot of Doctor Who. That's a lot of regenerations you're going to have to go through to listen. So it should be a ton of fun, though. And, of course, want to say thank you, everybody who has been listening. Our numbers have been going up, of course, as always. But that could be because it's the new series or people like us. I don't know. It's either way. It's pretty cool that, you know, people are listening, and it's also great that people are leaving feedback, and it's always just great just knowing people do listen to us. So definitely let's jump in with both feet. The Rebel Flesh. We are going back all those years to, ready for this, folks? May 21st, 2011. It's almost 11 years ago, which is perfect for the 11th Doctor. So I thought that was a nice little tie-in. Wow. And it was a story that takes place in the near future, probably within the next 100 years. And it starts off, you know, the Doctor has been very suspicious of things going on with Amy. And it's, you know, is she pregnant? Is she not pregnant? You know, and he was monitoring her. And it was then he wanted to drop off Amy and Rory, and the fun then starts from there because they end up on this island in, I guess, in the Northern Sea, right off the coast of the UK, and they're mining for acid of all things. And you have some very cool things. You have these miners who are doing it, but they aren't mining themselves. They have what they call gangers doing it. And it's some pretty amazing stories. So first off, you know, did you guys see this when it originally aired, or did you come to it later? How did it work for you guys?
I watched it first on Netflix because I didn't really start watching the new series until series 7. I mean,
gotcha.
watching it.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that late.
Yeah. But I mean, I had seen all the, you know, I went all the way through.
The things you learn about people. Wow.
I know. Shocking.
What about you, Mikey?
No, I saw this probably as soon as it aired. By that time, I was fully invested in New Who, and whatever it was on, probably BBC America at this time, right?
Yes.
Because I think ever since... It was only those first few years where it was on Sci-Fi, right?
It was on Sci-Fi all the way through the Tennant era, and then I think that when they switched to Matt is when they went to BBC America.
Well, yeah, and I don't know if you guys watched this through HBO Max, which is what I watched it through, but I was very disappointed to see that they kept the intro, the Amy intro.
Yes,
my name is Amy Pond.
Yeah, and I was like, this is totally unnecessary. Like, I just was like, I thought that was a BBC America thing, but it must have been the way BBC packaged it to American audiences, and thus that's why HBO Max has it that way too. I don't know if it's like that way on the discs, but I don't have those, but that's very disappointing.
It was that way on Netflix too.
Yeah.
Is it that way on Netflix?
Yeah.
Okay. Shannon, what about you?
I watched it when it first aired. I was such a fangirl of the episode. Of Amy Pond and Rory. I would say my third cosplay ever was her kissogram outfit. So I was watching it and I was ready to go the whole time. I even made like fish fingers and custard, which was terrible. It was, that was bad.
My son had me make it for him, and Dad, we got to try, because he was 10 at the time, and we tried the fish fingers and custard, and we both had to look as we took our first bite, going, I don't think we'll be doing this again. So it was pretty awesome, and it's interesting though, because this is Matt's second season already, and he is so fit into the role, and it's just awesome. And the chemistry he had with Karen and Arthur was great. It was real, and it was nice. We've always talked about, too big of a crowded TARDIS, and I never felt like when it had Amy and Rory, it was too crowded at all. It was a lot of times it always felt like Amy was always choosing the Doctor above Rory, but this one actually showed Rory choosing Jennifer above Amy.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was really interesting, because
I like the episodes where Rory's like nurse instinct kicks in.
Yeah. And it was in high gear for this storyline, both parts.
Yes.
And it kind of burned him in the end, truthfully. And because Jennifer took full advantage of that. So,
but one thing you said though is that, yes, it is amazing to watch and see Matt do this, but as we've discussed, his first season, his first few episodes, the first thing he actually filmed was that 2-parter with the Weeping Angels and River. And I think we were all astounded as how confident he was in the role then, but he just continues to get better and better and better. And, no offense to anybody else who's played the Doctor, especially recently, but damn, this is watching this is just such a breath of fresh air.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
And that's what made it great to see. I was interesting over the weekend. Mike Faulkner and I went over to Titan Comics, and we were talking to Mike over there. So it was 3 Mikes talking to each other, basically. And we were talking.
Left out.
I know your invite got lost in the mail or something, did. But we were basically talking.
A lot.
No comment.
Old.
But it was interesting because we were talking about Doctor Who, because I told him, because Mike used to be our to-go place for when we did in-shop appearances and stuff. And I said, we've got to really start that up again. And as we were talking about it, he said, oh yeah, I thought about joining you guys for your live Doctor Who show you did a couple weeks back. And I said, oh, it would have been great. He said, and I said, we'll get you on the show soon. And I asked him, what did you think of Flux? And he said, it was for Chibnall, it was great. But for other Doctor Who, it was just okay. And it was interesting. And I told him we were talking about this one with, the gangers and everything. And one of the things he said is, I remember liking it, but for me, it wasn't a great one. But, that explains exactly the whole Chibnall era. It's just okay. It isn't great. And, and it's like, damn, you hit it on the head right there. It was just okay. Yeah, Jodie was awesome. Jodie is amazing. And we've said that multiple times. I hope, more people learn to appreciate what she's doing. And I just wish she had better stories.
Yeah, it's the writing. It always comes down to the writing. And the thing is,
on Classic Who, we're going to bash Chibnall.
Yeah. The thing is, for me, this is an outstanding season. There are so many good stories in this season. And I don't remember Rebel Flesh, before I watched it again, as really impressing me that much, to be honest. But when I went back and watched it, I thought, wow, this is really good. And I thought, and it's only because it was in this, it came after The Doctor's Wife, just before Good Man Goes to War. It's sandwiched in between these really great episodes. And so I think it kind of it didn't necessarily get the due that it deserved, but it just shows you what a difference it makes when there's just a good foundation of writing, when the secondary characters actually have some depth, when you actually care what's happening. It makes a huge difference.
and I don't mean any disrespect to anybody else who's played the Doctor. I mean, like, Jodie's doing really well, and, you know, if she had had a better writer, this, that, and the other thing, who knows? But she's a different Doctor than Matt is. Matt's a different Doctor than David was, Peter, et cetera, et cetera. They all bring something different and unique to the table. But I find more and more, every time I rewatch a Matt Smith episode, how much I just love him. Like, he climbs up just more and more. Like, my Doctor is always going to be Tom Baker. But man, Matt is like, I know his inspiration was the second Doctor, but man, he just feels like Tom's Doctor in a lot of ways, where I just never know what he's going to do. Never know what he's going to say. He's always on. He's always on. Mm-hmm. And he's just a joy to watch. And I do think, though, that, you know, like, yeah, as Mary said, while you're watching this season, which is pretty incredible, this one might be a little lackluster. But then right after you watch Flux, you know, you watch this and you're like, damn, this is really good. It's a shame, but that's, you know, you're grading on a curve, right?
I wonder if we would have watched a Colin Baker episode, what we would have thought.
Yeah. Maybe after the next Chibnall one, it's time to try Trial of Time Lord, because there'll be no better time to do it.
Nope. That's the end of the show then. You know, we're not ending the podcast yet.
I'm not sure. I mean, I don't want to diss Jodie, because I actually think she did a fantastic job.
Yes.
But I think there's this sort of level of otherness that Matt achieved that, you know, Tom Baker achieves it, Patrick Troughton achieves it, that maybe Jodie didn't quite. I'm not sure she quite got there, even though I love Jodie. I think she was fantastic. And I think it had a lot to do with the dialogue she was given and the writing she was given. So I don't fault her for that. But I just feel like, you know, the writer of this episode understood who the Doctor was, and Chibnall never really did.
Or like, you know, to your point, Mary, I think, you know, other Doctors, like other actors who played the Doctor, like Peter, and even to an extent, David Tennant, they are more relatable. They're not as otherworldly as the ones that you mentioned, like Patrick and Tom and Matt. You know, like, I think they make the Doctor more approachable, whereas these guys make him seem more of a alien being. Yeah. And Jodie would be in the camp of, like, you know, I would say like David and
more humanish.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
Well, that's, you know, a lot of people, you know, said that was David's thing, was that his Doctor was like one of the more human ones.
Yeah, and I think Peter to that, it was that to an extent too.
Mm-hmm, exactly, where Matt is like all wild and crazy and all over the place, and, you know,
flailing.
Oh, exactly, and that's wonderful, and it's just awesome to see. And we actually had a multi-Doctor story here. You know, this was pretty awesome that Matt got to play against Matt. You know, and
yeah, so soon after we watched Jodie play off against Jodie, like it's kind of cool to see the two of them. Like, it's very something that links the two of them now.
And I saw a lot of similarities actually in this, that, you know, between Matt's doing, you know, complimenting himself and talking to himself and everything that Jodie did in the final Flux story. And I thought she did fantastic with it. Hell, she was flirting with herself and everything, and which was pretty damn awesome. And and Matt, you know, oh, I love your bow tie. I love, you know, and everything. And it was interesting in the storyline, and that, you know, how Amy was so anti, you know, Ganger, and, you know, and even the Ganger Doctor, when he showed up, even though he had the same, he was the Doctor. He had all the same traits, all the signs. He wasn't, you know, he wasn't anything evil, anything deceptive about it or anything. He was there to help everybody. And it was awesome. And I loved how they pulled off the switcheroo in that. And it showed really the depth of, how much Amy cares for the Doctor, but she was cold to the Ganger one. It was just awesome. So it was pretty neat to see.
I kind of had a feeling, though, that they had switched shoes. I mean, I know I had watched it previously, but even in the first one, I was like, this is going somewhere, because everybody, remember, the Doctor lies. So I was like, I'm wondering if he's using this to gauge their reactions. And that's actually what he was doing. And I thought that was very cool, too. Like the moral conflict of the Gangers versus the humans. So,
okay. And the only true evil Ganger was Jennifer and everything. And
even she was kind of understandable that she was driven that way, because she was fighting for her survival. To her, it was war, which was very understandable, because, she didn't really change until, the leader, whose name I'm blanking on, killed one of them. Well, then what would your reaction be? If you're in that group, are you going to say, oh, well, that's okay. We'll gang up with you.
I read that, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I read that Matthew Graham liked making the quiet one, the darker one, so to speak, the more conflicted one. Just, it brought more depth to it. It was really, I think, a really interesting way that they made her, when she fought herself, like two Gangers fought each other because they had already killed the human one.
Right.
And then they used it to manipulate Rory. I was like, well, this is a very interesting take on it, too. And it refers to what you said, Rory's nurse's instincts kicking in and being like, oh, I must save this person. I must help them type thing.
Oh, I could totally see that. It was really interesting to see that, because she was manipulating Rory with creating another version of herself. And, and it was very interesting to see, because of the solar storm that they had. That's what, basically mutated the Gangers to become human. That they morphed into, that they also became, human. But then, what the Doctor did to them at the end fully formed them into it, which was interesting to see.
Yeah, I think that there's, I was sort of not clear on exactly, but I got the impression that even without the solar flares, like this was something that was, we find out that, like, it's somewhere else, I think in India, some had rebelled. Like, this was just a matter of time. The fact that the one girl, I just can't remember her name now. Sarah, right? Jennifer, yeah. One that Jennifer, like, she was saying to everybody else, like, I remember every death. And the others said they didn't. And so, like, she was going to feel that way no matter what, because of that, I think. And that was only something that I think, and we also know that the substance is self-aware, which is something that they didn't know. They attributed to something like moss, right? Where it doesn't really think for itself. It's alive, but it doesn't really think for itself. And the Doctor knows that's not true. I do find it interesting that this is one of the few times that the Doctor actually lands and goes where he's supposed to. Maybe not at the time that he was supposed to go. Even though Rory and Amy think that they're there by accident once again, he plays it off like, oh yeah, we did show up here randomly. Not,
well, exactly. It was interesting too, because the Doctor wanted to go, because obviously the technology for the duplicates are much more known in the future throughout the universe even. And he wanted to see the technology at its infancy. And that's why he went when he did. So he must
just
have
wanted to figure out how to tell between that and human. Like, he just couldn't,
right.
Like, his scanners couldn't figure it out. So he needed to go to the source to be able to figure out how to tell the difference. I don't know if it mattered when he went, but that's the impression I got.
Right. It was interesting because he had mentioned it multiple times. He had heard, knew more about the technology than he was letting on. And, and it was real interesting. I wonder if he even knew about the events that happened. And maybe that's why he wanted to see the repercussions of the solar storms with it and everything. So who knows?
He's the smartest one in the room, but I don't know if he's that smart. This is a guy who not only plans, he's planned so far in advance. That's the reason why he does the switcheroo, because he makes the call to the guy's kid because he knows that later on it's going to make a difference. And I'm just damn, this is a doctor that we haven't seen in years. This smart doctor we haven't seen in years.
So Amy, that was going with him the whole time, she was a more evolved ganger then?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't remember when the switch was made. Do you guys remember that?
I think it was in the orphanage.
Because he says a long, long time. And obviously she's pregnant, so it must have been about in their weird time thing. It must have been 9 months, right? But wibbly wobbly, timey wimey type stuff. Right. So I don't know what episode, the storyline that would be. Where
that was the Impossible Astronaut storyline at the beginning of the season, four episodes before this one.
Yeah, the first episode of the season.
Yeah, and it was they went to that orphanage, and it was Canton and Amy. And you remember she went into the room with all the silence were on the ceiling, and then she found that one room, and it had pictures of her with the baby, and which didn't make sense anyway because you never got a chance to see that because the baby was kidnapped, and so it was just interesting to see. And then the silence showed up behind her, and the door slammed. And she started screaming, and that's when supposedly the replacement happened for her. And that's why she was seeing then Madame Kevorkian, whatever her name was.
With the eye patch.
With the eye patch lady. Through the holes and everything, because she was subconsciously seeing it through, when she was laying in the tube, basically.
Right. Every once in a while, she'd get a little blip of consciousness.
Exactly. And so, because you saw it from that point on, you saw things like that.
But the doctor would tell her to breathe.
Yeah,
exactly.
Also. It looks like every once in a while.
He knew exactly what was going on.
Right. The scanner tells him that, she's pregnant, she's not pregnant, she's pregnant, she's not pregnant. He knows that there's some sort of transmission going on between this form of Amy, which he has no problem destroying, even though he fights for it like hell for the rest of them. He has no problem getting rid of it.
I thought that was really interesting. I was okay.
Exactly. It's like, Rory, step away from her. And
I guess this one wasn't self-aware. Maybe?
Well, we were hoping. Because he just murdered her. So.
Well, I think it was more the traditional thing, though, because that was her consciousness inside her and everything, because after he destroyed the ganger of Amy, she woke up in the tube,
right,
and she became conscious and realized where she was. So before that, she was unconscious, but she was in the tube, and that's how she was able to
experiencing life through the ganger.
Exactly, in the TARDIS.
But she didn't know she was doing it that way.
No,
that's why she got scared and everything. So it wasn't the ganger saying, I'm scared. It was
Amy.
It was Amy. It was Amy.
So, for the first time, you're scaring me, Doctor.
That could have been made a little clearer. I'm not saying I didn't get it, but it could have been made a little clearer just because it's because it does seem like he spends two episodes going save them, they're real people. And then, oh no, Amy? / dead.
Yeah, well, they did gloss over that.
Yeah. So, but it was still, that's the beauty of episodes like this, where you have this sort of base Under Siege thing, right? Where it's sort of like the Thing, where you don't know who is real and who's not. You're wondering who is the enemy and who's not. It's just real fun to play with that. And this was a really unique way of doing it.
They did it really well, setting the atmosphere too. I mean, just the production design, the set design.
Come on, it was in a spooky castle. How could it not be good?
It was great. And the acid being a continuous threat. I mean, I thought they just did that really well.
No, it was really done really well. And it was fun because I recognized some of the actors from this and from other things. The actress who played Cleves, who was the base commander, she later went on to be on Downton Abbey for quite a few years. Mm-hmm. And so it's just like, oh, wait a minute.
Good job.
Yeah, exactly. She got went from being a commander to work in the kitchen at Downton Abbey. So not so bad.
The guy who played Buzzer was on Life on Mars as well as Ashes to Ashes, and which is, I don't think it's a coincidence. I mean, Matthew Graham, who wrote this episode, was the co-creator of both those shows. A very good writer. He's also done episodes for Hustle and Spooks, two of my other really favorite shows over in Britain. And
but he did. Mikey, he did write Fear Her.
I was just about to say, like, I'm glad I was glad to see that he redeemed himself to do another better Doctor Who episode.
Chloe Weber,
because his first one was not really that
great.
So, but he's a guy that I would welcome back to the TARDIS with open arms. Like, what do you got? Like, write for us. Like, I think he would do he shows that not only does is it interesting, but he creates characters that you care about. And it was a little heavy-handed with the boy, with the father and the son's birthday and everything. I grant you, but we cared. We cared about all those people when usually they're just cannon fodder.
Mm-hmm. It was kind of funny though when the Ganger was starting to normalize, and the Doctor walked up to himself basically, and the other Doctor was quoting past doctors, "Have a jelly baby," and using Tom's voice and using David's voice and it was actually a lot of fun to hear that and to see that. And it was all in all, it was a great episode. It was, like you said, base under siege, and truthfully, at times, you didn't know who to root for, because there were times the humans were being right out bastards about stuff. So
I actually liked it in the end when Amy hugged the Ganger Doctor goodbye. I thought that was really incredible. Because the Doctor, when he went outside with Amy and they got into that fight, I thought that was kind of like, ooh, Doctor, what? But when she hugged the Ganger Doctor at the end, it was like an acceptance of it. And I thought that was really incredible too.
Yeah, she learns, even though she's only there by proxy, she learns a pretty big lesson because obviously she's prejudiced against the Gangers. One, I think, because of Rory's interest in Jennifer, as well as the fact that her singular guy that's one in a million, is so duplicated,
easily copied.
Is easily copied, and she just can't accept that there's there's more than one of him. And she gets the truth right in her face.
Oh, big time. And that's something that was pretty awesome is it was a real true slap of reality for her. Don't always judge a book by its cover. And, and her jealousy about, Rory, and then also, oh, Rory's helping them, I hate all Gangers from here on out. And they weren't so bad. They were just trying to survive too. And, but then again, I don't know if I'd probably feel weird seeing two of me, also.
I mean, that's what made it interesting though. It was very complicated emotionally, which again, is not something you get in the Chibnall stories most of the time. So, so that was really nice to see that there was a lot of layers going on. It was not a superficial episode, especially going back and watching it. After seeing it before, I think I missed a lot of the nuances. And then I thought, wow, he's doing a really good job of making this a not black and white issue.
Mm-hmm. That was pretty cool about it. I had forgotten how horrific Jennifer became in this story.
Oh, yeah, she just loses it.
She
physically and mentally.
She goes full out alien thing monster at the end.
Right.
Oh, the whole thing when she was walking up to that guy and her mouth opened wide, and it was just she just you didn't see it, but
horror show.
she just swallowed that guy. It's she just like ultimate deep throat of that guy. It was just like, oh, Jesus. It's like that guy just went right down, and it was like, eh. And then when she became like, it looked like almost like something out of The Thing, or, at the end, and it probably gave some kids nightmares, I fully expect. So it was pretty amazing to see. And I liked it and everything. And it was, some of the, when they killed that one guy, the one with the kid, and it was just like, oh, really? I know where they're going with this. And so it was sad because, he could have had two dads, which is not a bad thing. But,
that's a different sitcom.
But they also replicated the bad parts too, like with Cleves, how both the Ganger and Cleves happened to have the brain issue, which the doctor took care of. But I was like, oh, so they replicated the negative as well as the positive. So they were an exact copy, almost exact copy in every aspect. So.
Well, exactly, because she had a blood clot in her brain.
Right. Yeah.
And so, and that's what, so the Ganger had it too. And it was interesting. And then the doctor said, oh, I've got this formula. It'll take care of that. It's like, but there's other times the doctor's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I can't help you. And it's just like, oh, gee, doctor, thanks. Adric is still waiting there, somewhere on Earth.
Right. The doctor will save me.
Yeah, the doctor someday. He'll come and get me.
Where's my elixir that smells like tastes like burnt onions?
So yeah, it was kind of, there's convenience and then there's convenience. So, but it was overall a great story. It didn't slow down at all. It was just right from the very first scene all the way through. I loved it even when the TARDIS got, started sinking through the ground because of the acid and everything, and then showed up right at the right time. Oh, there you are.
She knows how to make an entrance. That was my favorite. I was like, oh, yeah.
It was pretty cool.
Especially since we had just seen the Doctor's wife. So, this is how we're looking at the Doctor, at the TARDIS now.
Yeah, that's true. And it was interesting, too, because, the TARDIS and the Doctor, from that point on, after the Doctor's wife, you could even more the special bond between the two of them. And it was even more interesting. And of course, we're not going to bash Chibnall about throwing all that out the window, but, we're not going to do that right now. But it was great because it's like the TARDIS showed up. It was the cavalry. This is, it's our way out of there and everything. So it was cool to see. And I would have loved to seen a story with more stories with the Ganger Doctor, though. I think that would have been kind of cool.
It could still be out there. That's
true. Floating around somewhere.
He does say that, we don't know much about this, and you could survive. Supposedly he could regenerate. So, there could be another Ganger Doctor out there.
A Ganger Capaldi somewhere out there.
I don't know if it would necessarily, well, that's the thing. I don't know if he would necessarily regenerate to the same look as a Doctor. So that would be interesting, but it's possible.
Of course. It was, it was neat because it brought in a lot of horror elements. And, the spooky castle, the monsters, and, it was kind of a mix also between, Frankenstein. You had a little bit of Frankenstein in this. Mm-hmm. You also had, all these different, even some vampire, but you also had a monster that can transform itself. It was neat to see. And everything in this worked really well, which was nice.
Yeah, if you're a fan of the Philip Hinchcliffe episodes, then you're probably
of the Tom Baker. Yeah, very much so.
Love this one.
I could totally see.
It's very reminiscent of them.
So it's pretty cool. So I think we've talked a lot about this. Any final thoughts before we go ahead and rate this one?
I love the music in this one. When they started it out with the Muse song, Supermassive Black Hole, when they were playing darts, that was incredible. The energy was already really high. And then I like the Dusty Springfield one, too. And Rory's like, that's my mom's favorite.
My mom loved Dusty Springfield.
Yeah, it was just so random. But it wasn't once you realized that Amy was pregnant the whole time. But still, it was a very, it was a way to connect with Rory, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, I loved how they said, maybe it's Vikings. Oh, Vikings that like Dusty Springfield?
Yeah, I was thinking that through this whole episode that I miss Murray Gold. I really do.
He was the best. Although I will say also, in addition to the intro with Amy at the beginning of before the opening credits, once the opening credits started proper, I was like, "Ooh, this is not my favorite."
I still like it better than the Chibnall ones.
Well, yeah, but I mean that's a low bar, so I'm not gonna go there. But it just seems so fast, and we need to get this over with. And I don't really particularly love the font that they use for the. I know it's minor, but
for the logo.
Dude, that was our logo for how many years on the podcast?
Every episode of it. No,
wow.
But not so much with the Doctor Who logo, but the font they use for the names. It looks like they're done in stone or something, and it just doesn't really work for me. But Murray's Gold is great, and yes, combined with as the Doctor said, who isn't a fan of Dusty Springfield?
That is true.
And it's so funny the way Matt delivers that. It's like he knows her. It's just a throwaway. Who is it? But the way his face looks and everything, you're like, oh, he knows her.
Very true. Very, very true. And you know what?
Which is really interesting. If you I'm watching this after seeing Last Night in Soho, which Matt Smith does an amazing job playing a really incredibly terrible person. But Dusty Springfield comes up in that too, and it's kind of interesting.
Oh, wow.
That there's just a little bit of a tie-in there, but
maybe it's in Matt's contract, something.
You always have to mention Dusty Springfield.
Well, I don't know. I doubt it pops up in his other things. I doubt it's going to pop up
Crown.
In Morbius and The Crown and in the Game of Thrones prequel and the hundreds of other projects he's been doing. That guy has been getting so much work, and I haven't got to see much of it since he left. But when I saw Last Night in Soho, he was incredible in that. I do recommend people check that out. It is dark, so if you're into dark horror stuff, it's pretty fun.
Awesome.
Cool. Will do.
All right, let's go ahead and rate this. 1 out of 5 TARDISes. 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. Shannon, it's your first time with us. You get to go first.
I think it was a 4. I really loved it. And at first, I think I did what a lot of people did, was oh, okay, it was great, but what else? But after watching it again, seeing all those little things, I was like, this is really wonderful. I love it. It was a bunch of good memories.
That's awesome. That is really awesome. All right, Mikey.
I'm going to give this a 4. I want to give it a 4.5 actually, because I just think it's really solid. There's not a lot of things not to like about this. I don't know if it's something that obviously, one of the things that makes a 1 to 5 for me is how accessible it is. And if you're, watching Doctor Who for the first time, should you start with this 2-parter? Not really sure that that's going to work out for you, especially since it does tie in with the storyline of the season through this. The very reason that he goes there is because he's trying to check out what's going on with Amy. So, which we find out at the end, and it just cuts off right before, Baby River pops up and says, hello, sweetie, to everybody. But yeah, I think it is so fun to watch. And it's, It's got all the elements. All the other characters are good. I'm not sure if there's anybody strong enough that I would say, oh, I want them to be another companion. But there's still, you care about them, especially when they die. So that's important.
No, agree with that one completely. Mary?
Give it a 4 also. I mean, I think it's a really well-constructed two-parter. It's one of the few where both parts hold up. One isn't so much stronger than the other one that the other one gets overshadowed. And I like that. And there's a lot of very emotional, kind of nuanced writing here that we haven't seen in quite a while. And it's one of those ones that really, it improves on the rewatch. I really recommend people go back and rewatch it because it's well worth it.
Nope, totally understand that completely. This is definitely worth a rewatch, and this probably will not be the last time I watch this one again. I'm going to give it a 4.5 also. Damn it, I hate when we all agree. And, and it's fun, though, because the two-parter is very, very solid. And it if you watch it back to back, it's seamless. It goes right out. And it was a lot of fun to hear and to talk about it with you guys, of course. But this isn't the first time we've actually talked about it, I found out. We talked about this on Earth Station 1, episode 61, all the way back,
Yeah, I wonder what my rating was on that. Because that was in the moment. That's when it was live and first aired. So my first reaction, we didn't unfortunately write that stuff down, so I'd have to listen to it. But like you said, I think it's definitely worth a rewatch. And it does improve, especially after you look at what we've recently seen.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate putting it on that curve, grading it on that curve, but this is as solid, this is very solid. It's just
true.
And it's fun to watch, and there's no, like you guys said, it's a great two-parter. I love two-parters. The cliffhanger's strong. There's no padding. It's just great writing.
Yeah, we had an action-packed episode of that one. It was me, Mike Gordon, and it was also when Dan Wren was still on the show. Judy was also on the show. William was on the show. And also Matt Murdock was on the show from the U.S. podcast. Talk about a flashback. Talking all about Doctor Who. But that wasn't all. We also talked about James Bond that episode. We also had somebody in the geek seat.
That's when our shows lasted 3 hours.
Exactly. The good old days of podcasting, as we like to say, the golden age. So this was a lot of fun. We definitely would love to hear from you guys at home. What did you guys think of this episode? Please write us feedback at earthstationwho.com. We definitely would love to hear from you guys. All right, we will be back again in 2 weeks. And folks, we got a good one lined up for you. We have an amazing one, actually, for you. We are going to be going back and looking at the Diary of River Song, episode 6. So,
well, see, this one ends with the birth of River, and now we go right into the River's Diaries.
Right into River.
Which is really awesome. It's back to back. What can you say? I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. Shannon, you made it through your first episode with you. So, I hope you enjoyed yourself.
I did. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, it was great. And I know you have a Facebook presence and such, but, you're not really doing a ton of geekdom right now. I know also. So anyway, if people want to find out more about you or anything?
I'm not really doing any of my cosplay stuff anymore, but if you want to find out more about me, I'll probably be doing stuff with Chewbacca's, which is a Mardi Gras parade themed around sci-fi, which we have Doctor Who, Star Wars, Star Trek, Douglas Adams. So,
wow.
Yeah, we'll be doing stuff with them.
Oh, that's awesome. Are they planning on doing Mardi Gras this year?
Oh, yeah. We're all going to do Mardi Gras this year.
Oh, that is awesome. I didn't know with Omicron and everything like that.
Very masked.
Understandable. That's awesome. Well, I hope you enjoy yourself. I can't wait to see the pics and everything and find out more about it. And let's thank our regulars, of course. Mr. Mike Gordon, we made it through another one, my friend.
We did, and as always, it's my pleasure.
And Ms. Mary Ogle, thank you as always.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad we chose these episodes to rewatch. It was well worth it.
And how can people find your artwork?
You can find me at maryogle.com or on Etsy at eVision Arts.
Yay! That is awesome. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, as always. Want a big shout-out for our patrons, giving you guys a lot of exclusive materials, more and more. We have, of course, the Earth Station DCU Classics is now going to be coming to you regularly. And, of course, Earth Station 1's Rants and Raves are now exclusively for patrons. And you too can join for as little as $1. You can go to patreon.com/ESO Network. Not too shabby there. And you know what? It's always great when you have, friends and family and, people just up there enjoying your stuff. And that's why we like talking to you guys for Earth Station Who. I hope you guys are enjoying 2022 a ton, and hopefully we will see you guys next time when we talk all about River Song. Until then, on behalf of all of us, we will see you. Peace, and we are done.
Woo-hoo. You have been listening to Earth Station Who, a bi-weekly pop culture podcast dedicated to all things Doctor Who, featuring talent from across the universe. All topics on the show are the sole opinions of the individual and are used for entertainment value alone. You can subscribe to our podcast up on iTunes, Stitcher, or follow our blog at www.esopodcast.com. You can also follow us up on Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. If you enjoyed the show, please leave feedback up on iTunes.
We're the Con Guys, coming to you straight from the nerdy heart of Hollywood, California. We are your home for news, opinions, and interviews from the world of Comic-Cons and fandoms, your ultimate insiders for all things con!
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.